Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining this Sparc Technologies webinar this morning. Ticker is SPN for those who want to put the stock on their watch list and don't have it there already. On the call this morning, we have Managing Director Nick O'Loughlin. Nick will discuss the recent AkzoNobel announcement on their protective coatings deal with Eospark, something the company's been working towards for many, many years, culmination of all that hard work. So it was a very exciting time down in the office on Friday. In terms of admin, Nick is going to run through the announcement and some slides for about 10 minutes. And there is a Q&A function on your Zoom. So just type your question in at the end of that 10 minutes. We will be having a further 5 or 10 minutes of Q&A with Nick. So over to you, Nick.
Many thanks, Adam, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining this webinar today. So this presentation will focus on a material update to our graphene additives business that was announced late last week. For listeners wanting a deeper dive on the business or what we do in hydrogen, I'd encourage you to refer back to a webinar I did in February or visit our website to get some further information. So in terms of the announcement we made last Thursday, in summary, what it describes is commercialization of our flagship Ecosparc graphene additive by the protective coatings industry. The partner we're working with is called AkzoNobel. They are a tier 1 global coatings manufacturer, and they will be supporting us through commercializing an Eospark enhanced product in Australia called Interzone 954. Now, Interzone 954 is a very widely used, widely specified and well-known product in Australia and around the world. It has over 25 years of track record. And what AkzoNobel will be doing is offering a Eospark enhanced version of that same product in the Australian market. Now, this represents the first widely used protective coatings product to incorporate Eospark, but importantly, to our knowledge, widely used protective coatings product to incorporate graphene in any form. So really significant milestone, not only for Sparc Technologies, but for the wider graphene industry. And it reflects growing industry interest in utilizing graphene additives in protective coatings and in other industries where we're seeing some momentum as well. So the product will be available from May 2026, so currently, and it provides a platform for revenue growth for Sparc Technologies, given that we sell our additive to AkzoNobel and they incorporate it into that product. So to touch on AkzoNobel, which may not be as familiar to some in the Australian market, they are a global tier 1 company in protective coatings and more broadly in paints and coatings. The numbers on this slide speak for themselves, but they have over 10 billion euros worth of revenue in 2025, approaching 10 billion euro market capitalization currently, operations in over 150 countries, and approximately 31,500 employees. So they're a real powerhouse in the coatings industry, been around for many, many decades. The product that we're talking about today is called Interzone 954. And as I said, it has a long, extensive and successful track record in Australia and around the world, providing protection on steel infrastructure in harsh corrosive environments. So the customers of this product are typically found in the oil and gas industry, mining industry, general infrastructure owners. These coatings are used to protect steel from corrosion, and these coatings have been very successful in doing so over a long period of time. And the Interzone 954 coating is particularly well suited to maintenance situations. So to recap on Eospark, which, as I said, is our flagship graphene-based additive, we have developed this product in-house at Sparc Technologies over 6 years. We've done 9 rounds of cyclic corrosion testing, which is up to 6 months of testing in the laboratory under harsh corrosive environments. We have shown corrosion performance improvements from commercial and coating formulations that we've made here of between 26 and 79%, across those 9 rounds. We've supplemented that with now over 18 months of field-based data. We have field trials underway in various locations around Australia, and those field trials have been really important in getting our product into market, which is effectively what we've announced last week. We've developed the product with a very experienced and credible team from the protective coatings industry, over 120 years of experience, based here in Australia and also in the US, and supported in the UK as well. We are working across a number of companies in the protective coatings industry, and I think last week's announcement shows that growing interest in what graphene can do. We've developed this product in a very methodical way, and we've had to overcome a number of barriers to get this product to market, including the fact that a lot of the companies we work with in the protective coatings industry have tried graphene and didn't necessarily get it to work. So the reason why we have been successful is because, firstly, we've been doing it for a long time. Secondly, we understand and have sources of graphene which work for this particular application. Graphene is by no stretch of the imagination commoditized. It has many different properties, and any mix of properties will deliver different impacts on the materials that graphene is incorporated into. So graphene selection is a really key part of what we've done here and why we've been successful to this point in time. The other proprietary information in terms of what we've done to develop the product is how we disperse the graphene and keep that stable in epoxy resins, which are already used in these protective coatings. So we've been able to develop an additive which effectively contains a carrier for the graphene. Doesn't change any of the coating formulation or performance other than the graphene itself, which is really specific to how we've designed the product. So at a high level, in terms of how it looks from Sparc and AkzoNobel's perspective in relation to this product, we source and formulate graphene into an additive, which is the Eospark additive that I've talked about. That additive comes in a can, looks a bit like a paint can. We sell it by the kilo to, in this case, AkzoNobel. They incorporate the Eospark additive at the point of manufacture of the Interzone 954 product, and that product then becomes the Eospark enhanced version. That product is then sold to end customers like any other paint or coating. It is applied in exactly the same way, and in fact, the manufacturing process doesn't change either. So the product has been designed to be very easily adopted, I should say, by the protective coatings industry, and we've developed it with experts from that industry. So it's a very simple process. We sell additive by the kilo. That additive is tipped in at a weight ratio of approximately 2% by the paint manufacturer, and that delivers the Eospark enhanced version of the coating and yields the performance improvements that we've seen. Very importantly, we have commercial manufacturing in place for this additive. We set that up a couple of years ago to support initially the field trials that have been underway now for over 18 months. And that manufacturing facility can produce enough additive to dose about 4.5 million litres of coatings. So that sounds like a lot, and it is, in terms of that's a lot of paint. However, the Australian market by 2030 is approximately 85 million litres for these protective coatings. So it represents about 5% of that entire market and about 0.25% of the global market for these protective coatings, excluding China. So we see this as the first step in a rollout of the Eospark additive widely throughout the protective coatings industry, but a very important step nonetheless that we achieved through the announcement last week. Also, importantly, the additive, in terms of its manufacturing, is done in a very modular way. It's not particularly expensive to set up the manufacturing kit, and we can quite easily expand capacity to meet the market demand for our additives. Another important point is that in terms of what we sell the additive for and what that yields in terms of potential revenue for Sparc, The best way and the simplest way to think about it is approximately $1 per litre of protective coating that is sold with our additive in it. $1 per litre comes back to Sparc. So our revenue opportunity, which I've gone through in the February webinar, is very significant with this additive when you consider the massive volumes that are consumed every year globally of these coatings products. And why do enhanced or graphene-enhanced protective coatings matter? Why are they used? Well, it's all about protecting critical steel infrastructure from corrosion. Corrosion costs industry a massive amount every year through steel replacement, asset failures, maintenance. It's a really significant problem for asset owners, particularly asset owners who have steel assets in corrosive environments. It also contributes a significant amount of carbon emissions when you consider the carbon entrained in steel. And if you can enhance the durability of these assets, help with the maintenance of these assets, then asset owners are very willing to hear the story. And that's what we found with the work we did with the field trials. And we've been able to attract some really significant names against those trials, including BHP, Mitsubishi Alliance, Santos, government, etc. So we think that this product is going to be widely used and really attractive to the end users who live with the issue of corrosion day in, day out. I'll finish off just in terms of where we sit from a corporate perspective. Market cap is mid 40 millions at the moment, and we've had a very stable and supportive shareholder base over a long period of time. Simon Kidston is our chairman. Daniel Eddington joins me on the board. And then our GM of graphene materials, Dennis Wright, has over 25 years of experience in the coatings industry. And we have Kristen as our CFO. Importantly here is the partners and collaborators that we've been able to associate, not only on our graphene additives, but also across our hydrogen business as well. And that's been a key focus of the business over the past couple of years since I've been in the role. I think we've been very successful in partnering with global leaders. And I think that's what will deliver us the benefits as these products come to market because of their reach and because of the validation that provides the work we're doing, as I said, across both sides of our business. So I'll leave my talk there. Happy to take any questions. These slides will be available on the ASX tomorrow morning, and they'll go to our distribution as well. So thank you again for joining, and happy to answer questions at this point in time.
Thank you, Nick, for the run through. Fantastic news and achievement for Sparc there. And I think the excitement that we saw down in the office on Friday was very much justified after so many years of hard graft and work for this breakthrough. So now we move on to the opportunity to ask Nick some questions, and questions are coming through. So I'll just start going down through the list. First question here, Nick, on the source of the graphene, the Ecospark graphene for this product. Can you disclose that?
We can't disclose that. That's some of the proprietary information that we hold here at Sparc. Why is it proprietary? Well, as I mentioned before, graphene ain't graphene. And a lot of people have tried to work with graphene in coatings and other areas. And it's very specific to the grade that you source. We believe about 3 to 5% of graphenes available on the market work in protective coatings in the way that we use it for our additive. Now, having said that, we had an announcement a bit over a month ago with a company called Hydrograph, which is a Canadian graphene producer or North American graphene producer. That was the first such, I guess, collaboration that we have publicly talked about. And there's some information both on a webinar I did with their president and CEO, and also an announcement that went out to the market about what we're doing with Hydrograph there. So in short, the answer is no, we don't talk about the source of our graphene for the Eospark additive.
Thanks, Nick. It sort of answers 2 or 3 other questions on a similar topic, asking about Hydrograph as the source and who the supplier is. So that's good, subject to confidentiality. Another question here, I think it's a key one. who is going to be marketing this enhanced product? Is it you? Is it Akzo, or both of you?
Yeah, so as the schematic slide explained, we sell an additive. So we're a business to business seller, and AkzoNobel sell the Interzone 954 product with the additive in it. So we had a call last week with the Akzo team to explain what the additive does in protective coatings and the work we've done to develop it, and also the work we've done to de-risk it in the Interzone 954 product. So it will be an Akzo product to sell, and we will support Akzo through providing information on the additive itself. We'll continue speaking to asset owners who have interest in this topic, and as I said, we have been successful with the likes of BHP and a number of others wanting to understand how it might support their maintenance activities for their steel infrastructure. So we will continue that work going forward, but it is an Akzo product that will be available for them to sell.
Question here on patents. Keen to understand the patenting progress and patents granted to date. I suppose how you protect your IP in this process.
So we don't have any patents in relation to the work we do on Eospark in protective coatings. We keep all of the protection as know-how, which is quite an important distinction in this area. Number one, there has been a lot patented around about the use of graphene, and that hasn't necessarily related to commercial success. Graphene can be tweaked, and patents can also be worked around relatively easily, I would say, if you know the right result is there in terms of delivery into the industrial materials. So we keep our information and protect that very closely, which includes the sourcing of the graphene, the way that we disperse the graphene in the additive, importantly, because graphene does want to come back together into bigger chunks, more like graphite particles. And if it does that in a liquid, then it will destroy your coating and certainly won't deliver the performance benefits that we've seen. The third one is the data set that we've produced. So 6 years of data. We managed to source graphene early on in the business's history, which worked. And we've been working with that source through the journey, which has enabled us to get to the point we are today. That data set would be, I think we're safe in saying, greater than anyone else in the protective coatings industry globally working with graphene. So that's a very significant barrier to entry for other potential competitors because the data doesn't come quickly. The data, 6 months for a single test in terms of cyclic corrosion testing, field trials, which the longest we have is about 21 months. These are all things that the protective coatings industry requires before they'll be comfortable releasing product.
Good, thank you, Nick. There's actually a few questions on that, which is good to see. It means that you're in commercialization mode when people are worried about protecting your design and IP, etc. So I think Nick has answered those questions on the barriers to entry and IP. If he hasn't, please come to us directly. A few questions here on the commercial side. What's the incentives for the AkzoNobel sales team to sell your product ahead of other products that they might have in the stable?
Yeah, look, it's a good question, and I'm not going to speak for Akzo, but I will say a couple of things here. So Interzone 954 has been, as I said, widely used and specified in Australia for over 25 years. It's a very, very well-known product. The Ecospark enhanced version of Interzone 954, effectively can leverage that track record of people who are currently using it. The Ecospark enhanced version, in terms of pricing, is at a small premium, not a significant one. And I think that asset owners, and particularly the ones that we've spoken to, in terms of the returns that they can yield, their return on investment through using a slightly premium coating and getting an extra year or two time between maintenance events is really significant. So that's a very easy conversation to have. And that's a conversation that we've been having in the Australian market and globally for a number of years now. For Sparc to be able to publicly collaborate with the likes of Santos, BHP, Mitsubishi Alliance, Government of South Australia, and others, including a joint paper we did with Aramco late last year, is testament to the fact that there's open ears with the asset owners in terms of graphene enhanced coatings. We're effectively first to market along with Akzo with this product, and I think there's a really strong incentive there for their team to sell. Number one, it's slightly premium in terms of pricing, really good for innovation, sustainability, a number of other benefits that their sales team can utilize when talking about this product with customers, and it's differentiated. It's the only one in the market. So I think there's a really strong proposition there for their team. And as I said, we'll continue to support their team along with our own discussions with the asset owners that use these coatings.
Right. Thank you, Nick. The market is always hungry. You hit a big achievement and immediately want more, and that's the way it should be. So now that you've made this announcement, question here on how quickly do you think the sales team at Akzo will make inroads in selling the product? And then how do we sort of calculate forecast revenue going forward?
It's a good question, and I certainly understand the interest. First point is that this is effectively a first of its kind, product. So there's not really any benchmark to necessarily say it's going to go one way or the other. So a little bit of it is, we'll see. But I think there's enough, and in terms of how I answered the previous question, there's enough to suggest that this product will be very successful in the market. As I said, it's sold in the millions of litres, so it's a widely used and well-known product, and that provides the opportunity in the Australian market to get in with this differentiated product. So we'll wait and see in terms of how it goes, but I think there's very strong reasons as to why it should be really successful, not only for Akzo but for ourselves. In terms of revenue opportunity, I would direct you to my February webinar where I talk a bit more about the global industry. This particular session is a bit more focused on the Akzo product itself. Our revenue opportunity is a touch over $1 per litre of coating sold. As I said, this product is in the millions of litres, so there's a really good opportunity there. I've said publicly, and I'll say again, we're targeting having a second and third product with our additive incorporated in the market by the end of the year. I think at that level, we'd be utilising our manufacturing capacity within sort of 24 months or so, which gives you an idea as to how you might look at modelling it. But as I said, this is first of its kind, so we'll see. It will be very interesting, and it's certainly news that's been people have taken notice within the protective coatings industry, so that's encouraging.
Right. Lots of interest online, Nick, so I'm going to throw some more questions at you. Try to get through as many as we can. Question here on the exclusivity of this relationship. Presumption is that it's not exclusive, and what does this mean in terms of other tier one companies jumping on board now, given the breakthrough announcement here?
That's right. This announcement that we made last week is non-exclusive in terms of the Eospark additive. What that means for other companies, I've said publicly a number of times, we're working with a lot of the largest protective coatings globally, 5 of the 8 largest, on various stages of testing and trials. I've also just said that we're looking at having products 2 and 3 in the market by the end of the year. So yeah, we're a first mover in this particular space. I think there's enough interest out there. I think we're highly supported by the data that we have, and also the customer validation that we have the leading product in the graphene additive space for protective coatings, and that positions us really well in what is a very large industry. So that's why we spent 6 years grinding away, doing a lot of work behind the scenes was not necessarily, sexy for the market, but getting it done and getting to this point with AkzoNobel really strongly validates that work and the team that's gone behind it. So that's why it's so pleasing for me and for the rest of the team.
While the call, Nick, is focused on AkzoNobel, there's a number of questions here online about what it means in terms of some of the other relationships that you have on that slide 9, in particular Dulux and Detmold. What implications, if any, does this announcement have in regards to them?
No direct implications. It is worth noting because Dulux is a brand of AkzoNobel internationally, but that is completely separate from Dulux in Australia. I should make that point. Dulux in Australia is owned by Nippon. So the work that we spoke about late last year at Cape Jaffa, but very separate to what I'm discussing today. I've talked about exclusivity, of which there is none. So there's no implications on that ongoing work. That work continues. The work we're doing with Detmold, I should say, is in sustainable plastics, not in coatings. So yes, it's incorporating graphene additives in the plastic space, but separate from the work we're doing in protective coatings, which is clearly we're most commercially advanced.
Has this particular product, Interzone, been used in any of your field trials to date?
It has been. And we did have that in the announcement. So it has been used in several of the field trials that are underway with some of the names that are on the screen there. And that's what's provided, I guess, that de-risking element, along with the confidence that there is market interest in this particular product. So that's very encouraging, and I think that's encouraging to the Akzo folk as well.
Thank you, Nick. I'm just going down through the questions to make sure there isn't an area that we missed out on. A few more questions on the patents and protection, which I think probably just come to us directly on that, and we'll come back to you on. I don't think we've missed general topics. If I have, I apologize, just conscious of time. So if there is a question that we've missed out on, there's still some coming through. Please come to us live, and Nick will get back to you with an answer. So just conscious of time, Nick, you've obviously got a lot on your plate now. Congratulate you on what really is a breakthrough announcement and achievement, not just for Sparc, but for graphene and additives. And I think, the first one always has the potential now to open the floodgates, and it could be the start now translates into a series of news flow from Sparc Technologies going forward. So I'm sure we'll get the opportunity to host many more of these webinars on these product launches in the next 6 to 12 months.
Thank you, Ed. Thanks, everyone.